Okay, fine. Uh, okay, students, in the last class, I think we discussed about the basic properties of electric charge, right? So, coming to the basic properties of electric charge, so let us have a recap of yesterday's class, okay? So, coming to the basic properties of electric charge, the first one is nothing but charges are of two types, one is positive and one is negative, okay? So, next point, coming to the second property, that is nothing but, as you know that like charges repel, whereas the unlike charges attract each other, okay? So, next, positive and negative charges tends to cancel each other, okay? As you know that when there is a positive and negative charge, okay, so they cancel each other and the net charge comes out to be 0, okay? So next, charge of a body does not vary with its speed, okay? Coming to charge of the body, it does not varies with speed, okay? However, it may be the speed of the body, okay? It doesn't affect the charge of a body, okay? So that is regarding the 4 points. So in addition to that, we have that is additivity of electric charges. So as you know that whenever if you want to count the number of charges present inside the conductor, irrespective of the sign, whether it is a positive or negative, the body consists of a charge like positive or negative. So when we are calculating the total charge of a body, we are going to add it, okay, in the like in the form of algebraic sum of the charges, okay? So we are going to sum it, okay? So that is regarding the additivity of electric charges. I think I have given the explanation also regarding that, okay? So next, coming to the conservation of electric charge. So as you know that conservation is nothing but charge neither be destroyed nor be created, okay? That is regarding the conservation of electric charges, right? So next, coming to the quantization of charge. So what do you mean by this quantization? Quantization is nothing but, as you know that quantization is a property of an electric charge by virtue of which any charge body can have charge with an integral multiple of basic or elementary charge. That is, but as you know that, so as you know that the quantization of charge is nothing but given by q is equal to plus or minus ne, okay? So where that e denotes the charge of an electron, whereas n is an integer, it can take the value starting from 1, okay? It keeps on going. So the quantization of charge is nothing but given by q is equal to plus or minus n into e, okay? So this is regarding the quantization. As I have said, if you want to calculate what is the charge of the body, or like if you are adding the charges to the body or removing the charges from the body, either you can add one charge or two charge, okay? Either you can remove one charge or two charge from a body. You cannot add half charge 1 by 4th charge. Similarly, you cannot remove half charge 1 by 4th charge, okay? So it should be a number like 1 2 3, okay? So this is regarding the quantization of charge, okay? So next, coming to the continuous charge distribution. So as you know that, coming to the microscopic level, okay, if you want to calculate the total charge present inside the body in the case of microscopic level, so you are going to make use of this quantization of charge, right? So when there is a few charges in the present inside the body, you can easily calculate it, okay? You can easily count it, what is the number of charges present. While coming to the macroscopic level, there is nothing but there are so many charges, okay? So the charges are uniformly distributed, so that there are n number of charges we say. At that time, what we are going to do is, in order to calculate, we are going to make use of this continuous charge distribution, okay? So as you know that in the case of continuous charge distribution, we have come across linear charge density, surface charge density and volume charge density. So coming to the linear charge density, as you know that linear charge density is nothing but defined as charge per unit length, okay? So if q is the charge distributed and l is the length, so linear charge density is nothing but denoted by lambda is equal to q by l, okay? And the SI unit of that linear charge density comes out to be coulomb per meter. Similarly, coming to this surface charge density. So, surface charge density is nothing but denoted by sigma. Okay. So, surface charge density is defined as charge per unit area. Okay, per unit area. So, if you consider if Q is the charge which is uniformly distributed over a surface, okay, then the surface charge density is denoted by sigma is equal to Q by S. Okay, and the SI unit of that comes out to be coulomb per meter square. Coming to the last, that is volume charge density, which is denoted by rho. So, volume charge density is defined as charge per unit volume. Okay. So, if Q is the charge which is distributed uniformly and V is the volume, so we are going to define that one as in terms of mathematics, rho is equal to Q by V. So, the SI unit of that volume charge density comes out to be coulomb per meter cube. Okay. So, this is regarding the continuous charge distribution. Okay. So, I think till here we discussed in the last class, and I think about Coulomb's law. We just went through that statement, I think, right? So now let us start with this Coulomb's law. As we all know that, so Coulomb performed several experiments to find the forces between the two bodies. Okay, so when the size of the body, when the size of the body is lesser than compared to the distance between the two bodies, we call that body as the point charges we call. Okay, when the size of the body is lesser compared to the distance separated between them, we call that type of a body as the charge body. Okay, so according to that, Coulomb's defines the forces between the two charges as, so just you can go through the statement there which has been highlighted. So this thing, okay, the force of interaction between any 2 point charges is directly proportional to the product of the charges and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. Okay, as you can see there in the figure, we have two charges, that is q1 and q2. Okay, so both the charges has been separated by a distance r. Okay, so just go through the figure. So we have two charges q1 and q2 which has been separated by a distance r. Okay, so according to the Coulomb's law, he says that the force between any 2 point charges is directly proportional to the product of the charges. Okay, it is directly proportional to the product is nothing but q1 and q2. And next, inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. Okay, square of the distance is nothing but what? So distance is nothing but r, so square is nothing but, it comes out to be r square. That means that the force between the two charges is directly proportional to the product, that is q1 and q2, and inversely proportional to the square of the distance. F is directly proportional to q1 and q2, and F is inversely proportional to distance 1 by r square we are going to write. Okay, and you can see here the force, the direction of force has been in this direction, away. Okay, since both the charges are positive charges, so obviously there will be a force of repulsion. Okay, in case one was positive and one was negative, so there was a force of attraction. Okay, so now, as of now, as you can see in the figure, the force has been, it is away, the charges are moving away from each other. Okay, so since both are positive charges, so both are experiencing the force of repulsion, and hence it is moving away from each other. So now coming to the mathematical form of this Coulomb's law. Okay, as you can see here, this thing, F is directly proportional to the magnitude of charges we say. Okay, so let us say that as you know that in the statement, F is, the force is directly proportional to the product of the charges. F is directly proportional to the product of the charges. Okay, while writing the product, we are going to take the magnitude of charges. Okay, let us say that in case there was one positive charge and there was one negative charge. Okay, like plus q1 and minus q2. Okay, at that case also, what we are going to do is, when we are writing in terms of Coulomb's law, okay, in terms of force, what we are going to do is, we are going to write F is proportional to magnitude of q1 and magnitude of q2. We are going to ignore that negative sign there. Okay, even though one of the charge is positive and one is negative, or else both are negative. even if both the charges are negative, what happens? We are going to write in magnitude itself, that is in terms of plus. Okay, so hence F is directly proportional to magnitude of q1 q2 divided by r square, as you know that inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. So next, since this expression has been in terms of, it is written in terms of proportionality term, in order to terms in terms of equal sign, so what you are going to do is we need to add a constant to that. So that constant is nothing but, you can see here, it is k. Okay, which is replaced, that proportionality has been replaced with equal sign, so we need to add a constant term there, that is nothing but k. Okay, so hence that equation comes out to be F is equal to k into magnitude of q1 magnitude of q2 divided by r square. Okay, where we have taken that one as equation 1. So you can see there, where k is nothing but a electrostatic force constant. Okay, so k is nothing but the force constant, since we are dealing about the charges which are at rest in this chapter. Okay, we are only worried about the charges which are at rest, so hence we call k as the electrostatic force constant. Okay, so hence equation 1 is nothing but F is equal to k into q1 q2 divided by r square. Okay, so let us see whether the value of k varies or it is same for all. Okay, like if the medium changes, whether that k value changes or what, let us see in the next sentence. So you can see there, the value of electrostatic force constant k depends on the nature of medium separating the charges, and the and on the system of charge and on the system of units. So you can see there, the value of k depends upon the medium. Okay, let us say that if you are placing the two charges, okay, in the vacuum, the k value is different. Suppose similarly, if you are going to place the two charges in water, it is different. Okay, similarly inside the glass, if you are placing the two charges, the k value keeps on changing. Okay, the k value depends upon the medium. Okay, so hence they have given that in case of when the two charges are placed in space, okay, that is nothing but air or vacuum we call. Okay, so whenever we say that when the two charges are placed in free space, you need to assume that either in air or vacuum. Okay, so when it is placed, the k value comes out to be, in CGS system, the k value comes out to be 1. Okay, whereas in SI system, you know that it has been given, see there, k value comes out to be 9 into 10 to the power 9 Newton meter square per coulomb square. Okay, the value of k in terms of CGS system, when the two charges are placed in a free space, that is air or vacuum, in terms of CGS system, the value of k comes out to be 1. In case of SI system, the value of k comes out to be 9 into 10 to the power 9 Newton meter square per coulomb square. Okay, so hence the value of k comes out to be 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught. Okay, so you can see here, you may ask, how did you write this, how did you say that k is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught? Okay, that is the value. Okay, k value is nothing but equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught. If you multiply that, 1 divided by 4 into pi value is nothing but 3.14, and epsilon naught is nothing but, epsilon naught is called as absolute electrical permittivity, or we call that one as absolute permittivity of free space. Okay, see here, whenever we place the two charges in free space, there is a term added, that is epsilon naught. Epsilon naught is nothing but, we call that one as the absolute electrical permittivity, or we call that one as absolute permittivity of free space. So if you ask what is the meaning of that permittivity of free space, it says that it represents the capability of a vacuum to permit electric fields. Okay, I'll repeat once again, it represents the capability of a vacuum to permit electric fields. Okay, I'll come what do you mean by this electric field later in the upcoming topics. Okay, so that is the meaning of that. So when you divide this, k is equal to 1 by 4 into 3.14 into epsilon naught value comes out to be 8.85 into 10 to the power of minus 12. Okay, if you multiply and divide that value, okay, if you substitute value, and if you get the value of k comes out to be 9 into 10 power 9. Okay, the k value comes out to be 9 into 10 power 9. So hence equation 1 can be written as F is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into q1 q2 divided by r square. Okay, just we have substituted the value of k, that as 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught in equation 1. Okay, so that is nothing but equation 3 we call. So F is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into q1 q2 divided by r square. Okay, so next, the standard form of Coulomb's law is nothing but, we are going to write in terms of magnitude, we are written the equation 3 in the simple form, that is in the standard form. We are going to write the Coulomb's law as F is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into q1 q2 divided by r square. Okay, F is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into q1 q2 divided by r square. You can see there epsilon naught is nothing but 8.854 into 10 power minus 12 coulomb square per Newton per meter square, or the SI unit comes out to be Fermi per meter. Okay, so epsilon naught is what? It represents the permittivity of free space. Whenever you place the charges in the free space, so epsilon naught term comes there. Okay, epsilon naught denotes the permittivity of free space. That means you have placed the charges in the free space. Okay, and the value of that comes out to be 8.85 into 10 to the power of minus 12 coulomb square per Newton per meter square, or Fermi per meter. Okay, so this value epsilon naught you need to know. Okay, you need to by heart that. Okay, so while solving the numericals, we are going to make use of that. Okay, and one more thing, so while solving the numericals, as I have said, whenever we make use of this Coulomb force, okay, as I have said in the starting itself, let the charge be positive or negative. Okay, we are going to express the Coulomb's force in terms of magnitude. Okay, even though if they have given the charge in terms of negative, we are going to consider that one in terms of positive itself. Okay, so this thing you need to remember while solving the numericals. Okay, so next, coming to the unit of charge. Okay, so as you know that, what is the unit of charge? The unit of charge is nothing but, it is a coulomb, right? So this thing, so the unit of charge is nothing but coulomb. So we can define the unit charge as, see here, let us take q1 q2 is equal to q. Okay, that means that q1 and q2 is same, we are taken, that is nothing but simply q we are taken. Let us say that r is equal to 1 meter and f is equal to 9 into 10 power 9 Newton. So if that is the case, if you substitute to equation 3, okay, or else you can substitute here itself, okay, which I have highlighted the equation. See here, when you substitute the values, f is nothing but what, 9 into 10 power 9 we have taken, and 1 by epsilon value is nothing but, as you know that it is nothing but 9 into 10 power 9. Next, q1 and q2 we have taken as q itself, so q into q it becomes divided by r is equal to 1 meter we have taken, so it becomes divided by 1 square. So 9 into 10 power 9 and 9 into 10 power 9 get cancels out, so we have left out with the q into q, so that comes out to be q square. So q square is nothing but equal to 1, or you can write, when you that q square can be written as q is equal to plus or minus 1. Okay, so this is the mathematical form. What do you mean by this is nothing but, it has been expressed in terms of sentence there. Just go through. Unit charge in SI. Okay, 1 coulomb is that much charge which, when placed in vacuum at a distance of 1 meter from an equal and similar charge, would repel it with a force of 9 into 10 power 9 Newton. Okay, that means that when you take a unit charge, okay, 1 coulomb of charge, when it is placed in a vacuum which is at a distance of 1 meter, okay, both are equal in magnitude and are similar charges, both are either should be positive or negative. Okay, they get repelled with a force of 9 into 10 power 9 Newton. Okay, I'll repeat once again. You are going to take a two charges which is having the equal magnitude and same charges, similar charges, when it is placed in free space, that is in vacuum. Okay, and if the distance between the two charges is nothing but 1 meter, so both the charges experiences a force of repulsion with a force of 9 into 10 power 9 Newton. Okay, so this is the meaning of that mathematical form. Okay, So have you understood, students? I'll do one thing. Just I'll give a few minutes to you people. Just go through about the Coulomb's law and just about that unit of charge. Okay. Just I'll give you 2 to 3 minutes. Please go through it. Let me know in case if you have any doubts. Okay. Please go through it. Yes, students, any doubts? In case if you have any doubts, please do ask. Okay, shall we move to the next topic? Okay, fine. Coming to the Coulomb's law in vector form. Okay. So coming to the Coulomb's law in vector form, as I said in the beginning of the class itself. Okay. So this question they'll ask for 3 marks. Okay. Especially the Coulomb's law in vector form. This derivation. Okay. So see, coming to the vector form, it is very simple. Okay. Just I'll explain the figure first. Okay. As you can see, we have taken the two charges, two similar charges, q1 and q2. So both has been separated by a distance of r. Okay. And as you know that since both the two charges are positive charges, it experiences a force of repulsion, right? So just a minute. Yeah, this F12, you can see F12 has been directed in this direction. As you know that the two charges are due to repulsion, it moves away from each other, right? So this vector F12 represents the force on the charge q1 due to q2. Okay, it represents F12 represents the force on the charge q1 due to q2. Similarly, F21 represents the force on the charge q2 due to q1. Okay, so F12 is nothing but force on charge q1 due to q2. Similarly, F21 is nothing but force on the charge q2 due to q1. Okay, That is the thing. And you can see the unit vector. What is unit vector? Unit vector is nothing but a vector which has the magnitude of 1, right? So we have taken vector r1 cap, r12 cap in this direction, which is directed, which is directed towards the charge q2. Similarly, we have taken r21 cap, which is directed towards the charge q1. Okay, that is the two unit vectors we have taken. So coming to the mathematical form, okay, expressing this Coulomb's law in vector form in the mathematical form. So as you know that they have given, let q vector f21 be the force on charge q2 due to q1. So it is written as vector f21 is nothing but equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon into q1 q2 divided by r square into r cap of 1 2. Okay, r12 cap. So why we have taken r12 cap there? We have expressed the force of vector f21, right? And we have written the unit vector there, vector r cap 1 2. Why is that we have written? Why we have not written the unit vector that r cap 2 1 there? This thing here, just please go through. You can see the difference here. We have taken vector force as, yes, exactly, Gokul, because it has a direction. Okay, see here, direction is nothing but, as you can see here, in which direction the vector f21 is directing. It is directing towards this direction. So just take the unit vector which is directing towards the vector f21. If you take, it will be vector r12 cap. Okay, so hence vector f21 is nothing but equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon into q1 q2 divided by r square into r cap 1 2. Okay, that is the equation 1. So next you can see there, they have given vector r12 cap is the unit vector which is directing from q2 to, sorry, q1 to q2. Okay, so next we have taken vector f12. As I have said, vector f12 is nothing but it is a force on charge q1 due to q2, right? So we have written in the mathematical form, we can write vector f12 is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon into q1 q2 divided by r square into unit vector of r21 cap. Okay, so since you can see here, the direction of f12 is nothing but is in this direction. Similarly, if you take a unit vector r21 cap is in the same direction. Okay, r cap 21 has the same direction of vector f12. Okay, so hence we have written there r cap 21. Okay, so that is nothing but it is denoted by equation 2. So whereas r21 cap is nothing but the unit vector which is pointing from charge q2 to charge q1. So when you compare r12 and r21, okay, both are in opposite in direction. So hence you can write vector r12 cap is equal to minus of vector r21 cap. Vector r12 cap is nothing but equal to minus of vector r21 cap. Okay, minus of r21 cap. So hence the equation 2, just go through the equation 2. So hence equation 2 can be written as vector f12 is nothing but equal to minus 1 by 4 pi epsilon into q1 q2 divided by r square into r cap 1 2. Okay, so just we have expressed the equation 2 in terms of negative sign. Just we have replaced there in the equation 2, we have taken the unit vector r cap 21. In the case of equation 3, we have replaced that one by equation r cap 1 2. So when you replace that, there comes out to be negative sign there. Okay, so hence from equation 1 and 3, just compare equation 1 and 3. So equation 1 and 3 represents both the two forces, which is f12 and vector f21, both are opposite in direction and moving away from each other. So hence in mathematical form you can write vector f12 is nothing but equal to minus of vector f21. Okay, that means that the forces exerted by 2 point charges on each other are equal and opposite. Okay, so this obeys Newton's third law. Okay, similarly Newton's third law is nothing but what? Equal and opposite forces, right? So this Coulomb's law in vector form obeys the Newton's third law. Okay, so whenever you place the two charges experiences a force in opposite direction and it moves away from each other. That is what we have expressed in terms of vector form. Okay, so is it clear, students? Is it fine? Just go through about this Coulomb's law and vector form. As I said, this is a 3 mark question. Okay, definitely they are going to ask this question in your examination. Okay, please go through. Just I'll give 2 to 3 minutes. Please let me know in case if you have any doubts. Please everyone go through this. Any doubts you can ask. Just go through the figure and the same thing has been expressed in terms of mathematical form. Okay, fine. Prajwal sir, give any real life example to understand. Okay, so Prajwal, since we are dealing with the charges here, okay, so live example I think it is a little bit difficult to compare. Okay, so just make use of that, like just understand that if there are two charges, okay, like charges, okay, in case you have two positive charges, it is very simple. I think this thing you have been studying in your lower classes. Okay, the same thing you if you apply, it's very simple. When you take a two positive charges, it experiences a force of repulsion, right? It moves away from each other. Similarly, if you take one positive charge and one negative charge, it attracts towards each other and it moves towards each other, right? It experiences a force of attraction. Similarly, if you take two negative charges, so both experiences a force of repulsion, okay, and it moves away from each other. The same thing has been applied here. Okay, so don't worry, in case if there is any topic which is being related to real life Okay, definitely I'll give you. Okay, definitely I'll give that example. Is it fine? Any other doubts? Please do ask. Okay, fine. uh, just go through about this Coulomb's law and Coulomb's law in vector form. Okay, so just make a practice of this Coulomb's law in vector form and Coulomb's law also. Okay, so since it is very important, we are going to make use of this Coulomb's law while solving the numericals, and this derivation Coulomb's law in vector form, they are going to ask it for 3 marks in your examination. Similarly, the statement of Coulomb's law, they are going to ask for 2 marks. Okay, and the mathematical forms, they may ask only mathematical form, they may ask write the Coulomb form in mathematical form. So even if they ask that one, that will be for 1 or 2 marks. So in case if they ask for 2 marks, you need to write the Coulomb's law in mathematical form, and you need to explain the each term. What do you mean by F, what do you mean by K, what do you mean by Q1 and Q2 and R. Okay, this has to be explained for 2 marks if they ask for 2 marks. In case if they ask for 1 mark, write the Coulomb's law in vector form, write the Coulomb's law in mathematical form. If they ask, you need to write. In case if it is one marks, just write the equation, that's all, no need of explanation. In case if they ask for 2 marks, you need to write the explanation, you need to give, you need to say what the terms represents there. Okay, so I think with this thing, we will conclude today's class. Okay, so just go through these derivations. So okay, thank you students.